and welcome to Based on Faith. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Hawk and the Jewel. The Hawk and the Jewel is the first book in the Kensington Chronicles in publication order, but it's the second book chronologically, and it's authored by Laurie Wick, and the genre is Christian historical fiction and romance. And with that, I'm going to welcome to Based on Faith, where I talk about books based on my faith in Christ. Just very quickly, I'm also going to mention that this book review is a non-spoiler book review. Somebody told me recently that they don't read my book reviews because they don't want to get the books to get spoiled for them. And thing is, every fiction book I review, I make sure to make it non-spoilery, so I add enough details that would make a person who has not read it before not get spoiled by watching my review. So it's kind of like to tell people about these books and to encourage them to pick it up. I don't know if I'll ever start reviewing books in the spoilery type of way, talking about what happened in details, but if I ever do, I'm going to include spoilers included in my title. And with that, let's get into this book review. So our main protagonist for this book is Sunny. She's the youngest daughter of the Gallagher family, and her family thought that she was shipwrecked in a sea accident that killed her mother. So when she was like 1 or 2 years old, her mother and her father went on a trip. They had an accident and they were washed up on Dar Harbor, and the mother died, but the emir of Dar Harbor saw Sonia. She was like a very beautiful child, and so he discovered her and he took her in. And when the father came and said, "Where is my child?" The emir said, "Oh, we didn't find any child." And when you don't find any child, the next thing you think is that the child has died. Like, that's the most plausible situation. So her family thought she was dead, and nearly 13 years later, Sonia has been very curious about England because the emir is like, "Oh, you're from England, but this is your fake family type of situation. This is your uncle, fake uncle." It was just getting a lot, and I think at that point, and there was also like some political stuff happening. So the emir was just like, maybe it's time for her to go back to her real family. So he sends word to her family to come and take her back, but he lies to Sonny under the rules that she was simply visiting the ship that would be taking her back to England. And this is where we meet Brandon. Is in his early 20s. Yes, I said early 20s. Just stay with me, please. Okay, so Brandon takes Sunny back to England, and let's just say the ride back to England is interesting. It's just very comical because their banter is almost like younger sister, older brother type of banter, and it's just really nice to see, especially for me that I never had an older brother. And so when Sunny gets to England, a mini adventure of sorts starts, and Brandon is just like tired and frustrated with her in this older brother type of way. Okay, you might ask, who is Brandon? Since I'm saying in an older brother type of way, and it's like, if he's not older brother, who is he? So Sunny has, I think, two brothers and one sister, and our brother is married to Chelsea, and Chelsea is Brandon's older sister. So Brandon is Sunny's brother-in-law. Yeah, and the reason why they chose Brandon to go on that trip was because Brandon has sailed the seas a lot. So they were like, he was the most available person to go. Like, he's experienced with sea voyage, and he's also like the one who doesn't have any commitments the most in the family. Like, everyone else is either married with children or just engaged. So it was like the most plausible person to send. For Sunny, getting back to England, she has to like learn to adapt to a strange culture and to a family she never knew, and this is difficult for her because she never knew a family from England. The only family she has known is the one that was back in Daraba, and so it's very difficult for her. And one thing I will say about Sunny is that Sunny is very willful. She does not want to, like, on her trip back to England, she was talking to Brandon. And this trip back to England is like the first 1/10 of the book, so I'm not spoiling anything. I promise. On her trip back to England, she was talking to Brandon about how she never wants to get married, and she never wants to get married because she sees that men are very controlling of women. And I get this because this book was set in the Victorian era, and the Victorian era is not exactly a good era for the glorification of women. And women were treated as property, and they were often abused by their partners, and Sunny was just like, I don't want any man to control me in the way I've seen. And she also saw like male spouses to be very domineering over their partners. So when she hears that her grandma left like a huge fortune in her name, believing that she would still be alive, she was very excited and she was like, yes, I'm never getting married. Thank God for that money that I have. And I feel like a lot of Sonny's issue comes from like what submission has come to mean in this world of ours. And this video is not going to be a video about submission, because if it is, that's going to take like an extra 15 to 20 minutes, if not 30, 40 minutes. So let's just not talk about submission today, although I have my thoughts and I have my comments on it. Moving on. I personally would recommend reading this book before reading there are like 4 books in this book, in the chronicles. The first one I've reviewed, the first one, which is the 4th one publication that I've already reviewed, that was The Knight and the Dove. You don't need to read The Knight and the Dove. The Knight and the Dove is just like a prequel to like the other 3 books. The next book I'll be reviewing, which is on the Wings of the Morning, has Sonny and Brandon in it, but not so much. And the third one I'll be reviewing, which is like Who Brings Forth the Wind. Let's just say reading this book before reading those other 2 books might be helpful. But I read the last book first and I was fine. I was slightly confused, but I still enjoyed the book a lot. So yeah. So what did I particularly like about this book? Who was my favorite character? Okay, so my favorite character in this book has to be one of the side characters. We realized that the man was courting her, was in love with someone else, without his being aware of him being in love with someone else. And she was like, yeah, no, I'm not married. And it was like literally a month to their wedding. Okay, I'm going to say this thing about Laurie Wick's books. I like the fact that when she writes her books, the side characters have a life. And so we don't just focus on the main character. It's like the side characters have a life and we get to like see how they are doing. And I just like that about her books. I didn't like it so much when I first started reading, but it's something I've come to enjoy as I've grown older. And I'm just really all for this side character who was like, yeah, I'm not marrying someone who is in love with someone else, even if he's aware or unaware of it. Yeah, I'm like, sis is smart. Like she even traveled to another country so that he would not convince her and be like, oh no, you're misunderstood. She was like, yeah, no, I'm not hearing none of your nonsense. What problems did our main characters encounter? So our main characters are very stubborn people, Brandon and Sunny. Sunny particularly was like very restless, and a character really portrayed this quote by Saint Augustine that I like so much, that says, thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee. And that's kind of how they portrayed Sunny to be, like this very restless person seeking one thrill after the next, because she needed something to like just satisfy her. And I would say personally I get like that at times. Like when I draw away from God, I become very restless. Like I run after one thing and the next and the next and the next, until I'm like, okay, Faith, what you're actually looking for is God. And I go back to God and I find my rest in him. So I definitely see that, and that quote by Saint Augustine is like one of my favorites. And there is even a song that is based on it that I love so much. I think it's by All Sons and Daughters. I'll post it here, or I'll post the link here, but it's just a very beautiful song. The story definitely kept me guessing. I recently read a 500-page book that I felt like could be 200 to 300 pages, because it was just like, why did you use 500 pages to like write such a story that could have been more succinct? But this one is like one of those long books that are worthy of being long. It's 400 pages, but the 400 pages is worth it in my opinion. And let's just say my least favorite part of the book is when folks, like guys, were coming on to Sunny and she was like very uncomfortable with it, but one of her sisters was laughing about it. And I was just like, sis, this is not the time to be laughing. You should be telling them, because she's under your guardianship. You should be telling that person off, not laughing about it. I'm happy that the sister apologized eventually, but I'm like, why are you laughing about? It's not funny. She's clearly uncomfortable. and you are putting her in this situation she's uncomfortable with, and you think it's funny. Like, it's not funny. And I'm glad that she eventually realized that it wasn't that funny. Okay, dislikes about this book. Let's get into it. Let us not pretend that, that age difference I mentioned earlier is non-existent. Like, when they met, Brandon was in his early 20s, like 23 or 24. She was just like turning 14. See, I'm fine with age gaps in relationships where you meet each other later in life, but it's just like there is so much complexity to their relationship that when they eventually develop the romantic relationship, and this is not a spoiler that they develop the romantic relationship because it's in the title, the Hawk and the Jewel. The Hawk is Brandon, the Jewel is Sunny. So this is not a spoiler. It's in the title already, and it's in the summary of the book. This is just the journey of how they get there, and I'm just very disturbed because the romance does not start until she is older, until she's like 17, 18. But it still is giving me barely legal vibes because I'm just very disturbed. And it gives me like, because of this weird age dynamic, I have like very little urge to reread it because I'm just like, why? And it's, I think what's disturbing me is that she had a dependent relationship on him. Like, she was dependent on him, and he was in charge of her financials, the inheritance she received from her grandmother. And he was portraying very big older brother energy towards her, and she was basically his ward. She wasn't living with him, but he had access to her financials. He had a certain control over her. So I was just very uncomfortable with the fact that they ended up together. But then I know that this book is like it's portrays the way marriages happen then. Like, younger people were getting married to like much older people. But I really don't know. It really rubs me off the wrong way. Let's just say that, because I'm like, Brandon, that's your what? And it's like, the as soon as she comes out, this guy is like, oh yes. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm disturbed. Okay, I want to say that this setting is very fictional. It's not very representative of its time. It's like a fictional Victorian era, but I'm not an historian, so I'm not complaining. And I might have said, it was preachy because a lot of people complained about this, but it's a Christian book, so yeah. And okay, one more thing I didn't like about this book was the other side characters in this book to get married to each other as soon as they like each other. Like, can we chill for 2 seconds? Like, someone will be like, oh, I like you, and it's like, you like me, let's get married. And I'm like, oh, wait, small, wait, what are you rushing towards? And last thing for me is Laurie Wick's female protagonists and running away from situations. Like, I cannot deal. It happened in every single book in this series. Like, stop running away from your problems. Stop running away from your problems. That's not the way. That is not the way. Rounding up my review, I would say I don't know if I would recommend this to like younger readers with that type of age gap relationship dynamic going on. It's reflective of the time it was written in, but I'm forever disturbed by that. Like, Brandon, why are you having feelings for someone that you watched grow up? Why? If you just want to read a fluffy romantic book that will occasionally edify you with Bible verses and word of encouragement, this book is for you. I personally would recommend the other books in the series over this one because I really cannot get over that age gap thing. Yeah, and the other books in the series are so much more interesting to me. So, all in all, I'll give this book a rating of 6/10. And with that, I will say thank you for watching my review and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.